Opening, "Grandpa, don't drink the tea." 6 words that changed everything. I turned from my kitchen counter, where 8 packets of special chamomile blend sat lined up like bullets in a clip, and stared at my granddaughter, Maya, 11 years old, who hadn't spoken a single word in 6 years. "Mom put something bad in it," she whispered, her voice rough, unused, but crystal clear. The world didn't tilt. It exploded. At 71, after one tour in Vietnam at 19, the Gulf War at 37, and burying my wife 4 years back, I thought I knew fear. 25 years in the Army, retired as a master sergeant. I'd seen things that would break most people. But true terror? True terror sounds like an 11-year-old girl breaking 6 years of silence to tell you someone's trying to end your life. Let me back up 4 days. Tell you how we got here. Thursday morning. My son Derek pulled into my driveway that Thursday morning in October, sun glinting off their silver sedan. I watched from the kitchen window, the same window where my wife Eleanor used to stand, waiting for me to come home from work. 4 years since Eleanor passed. Some days, the house still felt too big without her. Derek stepped out first, 42 years old, but he looked older. The kind of exhaustion that settles into your bones when you've been lying to yourself for too long. I'd seen that look before, in Vietnam, in men who knew they'd crossed a line they couldn't uncross. Sienna emerged next, blonde highlights fresh from a salon appointment they couldn't afford, designer sunglasses, Hermes bag. The woman dressed like she had money while their credit cards maxed out at $85,000. Then Maya climbed out of the back seat, small for her age, clutching that stuffed elephant she'd carried since she was 3. Brown eyes that always seemed to be watching, calculating, understanding more than anyone suspected. Maya hadn't spoken since she was 5. The doctors called it selective mutism, trauma-induced. But back then, we'd thought she was autistic. Nonverbal, they'd said. She'll never speak. Turns out, she'd been speaking all along, just not out loud. "Dad, thanks again for this," Derek said, hauling their luggage. His eyes slid away from mine. Same thing he'd been doing for 2 years, ever since Eleanor died, since she'd told me, right before the end. Something's not right with that woman, with Maya. I should have listened to my wife. 4-day cruise, Sienna said, setting a small box on my counter. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Caribbean, our anniversary. Vincent, I prepared your special chamomile tea blend. She lined up the packets with careful precision. 8 of them, 2 per day for 4 days. It's very important you drink it twice daily, morning and evening. At your age, consistency matters for your health. At my age, 71, and she talked to me like I was already halfway to the grave. Maybe that was the point. "Didn't know I mentioned sleep trouble," I said carefully. "Oh, you did, last month. Don't you remember?" Her tone was perfect concern, perfect lies. I remembered everything. Eleanor had taught me that trick back in 72, right before my tour to Vietnam. "Memory is your best weapon," she'd said. "Never let anyone convince you otherwise." They left in a blur of goodbyes. I stood on my porch, Maya's hand in mine, watching that sedan disappear down Maple Street. The door clicked shut behind us. Maya's fingers clamped around my wrist, not the gentle touch of a child, hard, urgent, combat-level grip. She'd dropped her elephant, the one she never let go of. Her other hand pointed toward the kitchen, toward that box of tea, her whole body shaking. "Maya?" I knelt down. "What's wrong, kid?" Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Then she spoke. The evidence I guided Maya to the kitchen table. My hands were shaking. Hers were steady. "Tell me everything," I said, keeping my voice level. Command voice. "Start from the beginning." "I was 5, she said, looking at her hands. "At the doctor's office with Mom. I saw a toy I liked, and I said Mama without thinking. Just once. The doctor heard me. I waited, jaw clenched. That night, Mom came into my room after Dad fell asleep. She said if I ever spoke again without her permission, she'd send me to a special hospital, a place where I'd never see you or Daddy again. She said they give children shots there that make them sleep forever. 5 years old, threatened with death for speaking one word. I was so scared, Grandpa, so I stopped talking. To everyone. About everything. What did you hear about the tea? 6 months ago, Mom was on the phone in her bedroom. I heard her talking. She said your name. She talked about medicine, about making you confused, about making sure you wouldn't wake up. The kitchen felt too small suddenly. That's when I started gathering evidence, Maya said. I didn't just hear things, I kept papers. Her research about old people and medicine. About making people look sick when they're not. About making sure people don't wake up. And papers about why she hates me so much. There's more. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Papers about my real father. DNA tests. I'm not really yours, am I? Not by blood. I thought about the DNA test Derek had run when Maya was 2, the one Eleanor had found. 0% probability of paternity. I pulled Maya into my arms. Listen to me, kid. Blood doesn't make family. You are my granddaughter, end of story. She held onto me tight. Her fingers dug into my shirt. Not a child's grip, but a soldier's. The kind that says I've been holding my position for 6 years and I'm not letting go now. Her whole body shook. Not crying. The kid had learned early that tears don't stop predators. But 6 years of held breath, finally releasing. I felt something wet on my shoulder. Silent tears after all. I've got you, kid, I said quietly. I've got you. For a long time, we just sat there, her gripping my shirt, me holding her steady, the way family does. Where's the evidence? I asked finally. My room. Everything Mom's been planning. The documents. Maya led me to the guest room, the one with dinosaur wallpaper I'd helped her pick out when she was 6. The room she'd always loved because it was the only place she felt safe. She knelt beside the bed frame, slipped her small fingers into a gap beneath it, and pulled out a thin stack of papers, folded tight. Mom thinks I don't understand anything, Maya said. She used to leave papers on her desk when it was just us at home. She'd make me stand there and watch her work because she thought I couldn't tell anyone. Once she got a phone call and forgot to take a yellow envelope with her. I took it. I knew if I took everything she'd notice, so I only took the most important pages. My hands weren't steady as I unfolded them. The first document was a printout from a medical website. Signs of elder abuse and neglect. Yellow. Highlighter marked specific sections. Progressive memory loss, increased confusion, changes in sleep patterns. Every symptom I'd been experiencing for 2 years. The second document. Medication interactions in elderly patients. The margins were covered in Sienna's precise handwriting, calculations, dosages, notes about spacing administration to avoid detection. But the third document made it real. Progress notes in Sienna's script. VG timeline. My initials. My life reduced to a clinical experiment. March 2024. First dose administered. 1 mucolincolin lorazepam. Subject tired. Attributes to normal aging. June 2024. Increased to 2 plus diphenhydramine. Memory lapses noted. September 2024. Added zolpidem. Desired confusion patterns achieved. I read that line twice. Desired confusion patterns. She'd been tracking my decline like a science project, adjusting dosages until she got the results she wanted. Then I reached the final entry. October 10th, 2024. Prepared concentrated doses for cruise. Week. Calculated amount should ensure permanent resolution within 48 to 72 hours. Foreclosure in 6 months. This solves everything. Permanent resolution. That's how she described ending my life. Like closing a business deal. Grandpa, Maya said quietly, there was one time I almost spoke too soon. What happened? 3 months ago. You fell asleep at the kitchen table. You didn't wake up for 7 hours. I tried shaking you. You didn't move. I thought you were dead. I remembered that afternoon. Waking up confused, neck aching. Maya sitting on the floor watching me with those wide eyes. I was about to run next door to Mrs. Patterson's house, about to scream for help. But then you woke up, and Mom wasn't home yet, so I didn't have proof. I knew if I spoke then, she'd just say I was lying, that I was confused, and then she'd make sure I never got another chance. So you waited. I had to, but it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Watching you get worse every day. Knowing that if I waited too long, I'd lose you. But if I spoke too soon, we'd both be in danger. Jesus, 11 years old and making calculations that would break most adults. You did the right thing, kid. You waited for the moment when we had the best chance to win. The full picture. I sat down on the bed, studying the documents. The pattern was clear, methodical, almost perfect. Sienna had been poisoning me for 7 months. Started slow, 1 milligram of lorazepam, a common anti-anxiety medication. Enough to make me tired. Nothing I'd question at my age. Then she'd increased the dose. Added diphenhydramine, an antihistamine that causes drowsiness and confusion. I'd thought I was just getting older, forgetting where I put my keys, losing track of conversations. By September, she'd added zolpidem, a powerful sleep medication. That's when the real confusion started. Falling asleep at odd hours, waking up disoriented. All of it designed to mimic natural aging, to make everyone around me think I was simply declining. And it was working. I'd gone to Dr. Mark Stevens 3 times in the past year, complained about fatigue, memory problems. He'd run standard blood work, cholesterol, blood sugar, thyroid, all normal, because he wasn't looking for lorazepam or diphenhydramine or zolpidem. Standard panels don't test for those unless you specifically request it. Sienna had been smart. She'd used drugs that wouldn't show up on routine tests, drugs that mimicked symptoms I'd attribute to getting old. And if I'd drunk that concentrated dose she'd prepared for this week, I would have slipped into a coma, died in my sleep. Natural causes, the death certificate would say. 71-year-old man, declining health, no autopsy. Why would there be? Old people die. Her plan wasn't just smart, it was nearly perfect. I pulled out the last document Maya had saved. DNA paternity test results. Derek Gallagher. 0% probability of paternity. I found it 2 years ago, Maya whispered. I know I'm not really a Bennett. That's why Mom hates me. I'm proof of her mistake. You're a Gallagher, I corrected. And you are my granddaughter. That's all that matters. But now I understood the full picture. Sienna had gotten pregnant during an affair. The man, Marcus, based on her phone calls, wouldn't leave his wife. So Sienna had trapped Derek with the pregnancy. Derek had found out Maya wasn't his when she was 2, but he'd stayed anyway. Loved her despite everything. But Sienna had grown to resent Maya, a constant reminder of her failed affair. And when Sienna and Derek's finances collapsed, she'd decided to solve both problems at once. Get rid of me, inherit my money. And Maya? Once I was gone, Maya would be next. A silent child who couldn't testify against her mother. Except Maya hadn't stayed silent. I looked at this extraordinary kid, 11 years old. For 6 years, she'd endured psychological torture, gathered evidence, waited for the perfect moment, saved both our lives. Grandpa? Her voice was small. What do we do now? I thought about my assets. House worth $850,000, paid off. Retirement accounts, $420,000. Life insurance Sienna had taken out on me 18 months ago, $250,000. Total, $1.5 million. I thought about their debts, $85,000 in credit cards, $95,000 second mortgage, $40,000 owed to the IRS, Plus, Sienna's real estate business had lost $60,000 this year. They had $220,000 in direct debt plus no income. Bank threatening foreclosure in 6 months. If I died, they'd inherit everything, pay off their debts, start over. If I lived, they'd lose everything. Sienna had done the math, decided I was worth more dead than alive. I looked at Maya. We go to war, kid, and we make damn sure we win. The operation, I pulled out my legal pad, started writing. This is an operation, I told Maya. 4 phases, like the military. We don't move to phase 2 until phase 1 is complete. Understood? She nodded, sitting straighter. Ready. Phase 1, intelligence and documentation. Friday morning, 9 o'clock. I called Dr. Mark Stevens. We'd been friends for 20 years. Mark, I need emergency blood work, full toxicology panel. Don't ask questions yet. Can you be here in an hour? Silence, then 1 hour. By 10:30, a nurse was drawing blood. Mark stood in my kitchen, concern on his face but not pushing. Results by tomorrow morning, he said. Vincent, you okay? Will be. Thanks for trusting me. Friday, 3 in the afternoon. I installed 3 small cameras. Living room, kitchen, entryway. The kind you can buy at any electronics store, but good enough to catch everything. Maya helped, handing me tools, testing angles. We worked in silence, a team. Friday, 6 in the evening. I called my old army buddy Pete, who'd become a forensic accountant. Pete, I need you to look into someone's finances. Quiet, fast. Sienna Gallagher, maiden name Moretti, and my son Derek Gallagher. This official or personal? Both. How fast can you work? Give me tonight. I'll have something by morning. Phase 2, evidence verification. Saturday morning, Dr. Stevens called. Vincent, his voice was tight. Your blood work came back. Lorazepam, diphenhydramine, zolpidem, all unprescribed. The levels are dangerously high. I sat down, not because I was weak, because I needed a second to process what I'd already known but hadn't wanted to believe. My daughter-in-law had been poisoning me for 7 months, systematically, methodically. How long? I asked. Another week at those concentrations. He didn't finish. He didn't have to. I know who did it, Mark. I need 24 hours to handle this my way. Vincent, you need to call the police right now. By Monday morning, you'll be testifying in court. I promise. But I need 1 more day. Long silence. 24 hours. Not a minute more. Saturday, 2 in the afternoon. Pete called. Vincent, your daughter-in-law and son are drowning. Credit cards maxed at $85,000. Second mortgage, $95,000. Payment jumping next month. Her real estate business lost $60,000 this year. IRS audit, $40,000 in back taxes owed. Banks threatening foreclosure in 6 months. Total debt? $220,000 in direct debt. Plus that $60,000 loss means no income, only bills. My assets? House worth $850, paid off. Retirement accounts around $420. Life insurance. Wait. Keyboard clicking. She took out a $250 policy on you 18 months ago. Beneficiary is Derek, but she's the one who bought it. There it was. The math that kills. If I die, Derek inherits $1.5 million. Pay off $220 in debt. Keep the rest. If I live, they lose everything to foreclosure and bankruptcy. Sienna had done the calculation. Decided I was worth more dead than alive. Saturday afternoon. Maya and I photographed every document, created backup files, uploaded everything to 3 different cloud accounts. Redundancy, I explained. Never trust 1 copy of anything important. She learned fast. Saturday evening. I called Daniel Harper, my lawyer for 15 years. Daniel, if I record someone without them knowing in Ohio, is it admissible in court? A pause. Yes. Ohio's a 1-party consent state. As long as you're part of the conversation, it's completely legal. Why? Sunday evening around 6, clear your schedule, and bring a detective you trust. Phase 3, the trap. Sunday morning. Daniel arrived with Detective Rachel Walsh. They set up in my guest room, door cracked, listening devices ready. Sunday, 3 in the afternoon. Maya and I rehearsed. When they ask about the tea, what do I say? I practiced slurring words, letting confusion cloud my face. More confused, Maya corrected. Mom will be listening for specific things. We ran through it 5 times until I got it right. I'd play the confused old man. Let Sienna think her plan was working. Then Maya would retrieve the recorder, speak, and Detective Walsh would enter. Sunday, 3:45. I placed the digital recorder behind the war history books on my living room shelf. Maya tested it 3 times. Perfect. Remember, I said, stay quiet until the right moment. Then you walk to that shelf, take out the recorder, and speak. That's when Detective Walsh comes in. I'm scared, Maya said. First time she'd admitted it. Me too, I said. But fear doesn't mean we can't do this. It means what we're doing matters. You've been brave for 6 years, soldier. 1 more day. She nodded. Sunday, 5:50. I positioned myself in my armchair. Slumped shoulders, hair uncombed, shirt buttoned wrong, one side hanging lower. I'd even skipped shaving. The mirror had shown me exactly what Sienna wanted to see. A man falling apart. Maya sat on the floor near my feet, action figures arranged around her. She gave me the smallest nod, then went perfectly still, back to the role she'd played for 6 years. I heard Derek's car in the driveway. Showtime. The front door opened. Vincent, we're home. Sienna's voice rang through the house, bright and false. She appeared in the doorway, tanned from 4 days in the Caribbean. Her eyes swept over me, taking in my disheveled appearance. For a split second, irritation crossed her face, like she was surprised to find me still sitting upright instead of being rushed to a hospital. Then she arranged her face into concern. Oh, Vincent, you poor thing. You look exhausted. I let my gaze wander. Sienna, you're back. Was it... How long were you gone? 4 days, Vincent. Just 4 days. 4 days. I repeated it slowly, letting confusion show. Right. I've been so tired. Can't remember if Maya ate breakfast this morning. Or was that yesterday? Derek came in behind her, carrying luggage. When he saw me, color drained from his face. Dad, are you okay? Sienna shot him a warning look. Quick. Then turned back to me with that sugar-sweet voice. He's just tired, Derek. At his age, these things happen naturally. She settled onto my couch, getting comfortable, confident. Vincent, have you been drinking your tea? The special blend I prepared? The recorder behind those books was catching every word. The confrontation. I nodded vaguely. Tea, yes, helps me sleep. I sleep so much now. That's good. She couldn't quite hide the satisfaction. That's very good. Your body needs rest. She turned to Derek. See what I mean? He's declining faster than we thought. We really need to have that conversation. Derek opened his mouth. Sienna, maybe we should... Derek? She cut him off. Hard. Final. She turned back to me, and now the mask was slipping. Vincent, how would you feel about a place where nurses could watch over you? Where people could make sure you're safe? I made my voice small, defeated. I don't want to be trouble, a burden. You're not a burden. The words were right, but the tone was all wrong. Cold, calculating. But nature takes its course. Some people your age simply fade faster than others. A memory care facility would be best for everyone. Then Derek and I could handle your affairs properly. The house, the finances, all those complicated things. She was warming to her subject now, getting bolder. Everything will be so much simpler once the proper arrangements are made. The debt will be clear. We'll finally be able to... That's when Maya stood up, slowly, deliberately. She didn't walk toward me. She walked toward the bookshelf. Sienna's voice cut off mid-sentence. Her eyes followed Maya with something like dread. Maya reached behind the war history books, pulled out the digital recorder, turned to face her mother, and spoke. "This has been recording since you walked in." The silence was absolute. Sienna's face went white, actually drained of color. "And I can talk," Maya continued, her voice clear now, steady. "I've always been able to talk. You made me too scared to speak for 6 years, but I'm not scared anymore." Derek was staring at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. "Maya, I know I'm not your biological daughter," Maya said, eyes still on Sienna. "I found the DNA test 2 years ago. I know about Marcus. I know everything." The room held its breath. "And you know what's really sad, Mom?" Maya's voice had an edge now, 6 years of suppressed anger. "I still loved you, even knowing what you are, even knowing you wanted Grandpa dead. I still hoped maybe you'd stop." Sienna found her voice. "This is impossible. You're mute. The doctors said—" "The doctors you lied to," I cut in, standing up, dropping the confused act entirely. "Just like you lied about the tea, the sleeping pills, the natural decline you were engineering." I pulled out the manila folder, dropped it on the coffee table. "Your progress notes, March through October. Every dose, every symptom you wanted to create. Permanent resolution within 48 to 72 hours. That's how you described murdering me." Derek's face had gone gray. "Dad, no, she wouldn't. She's been poisoning me for 7 months," I said. "Dr. Stevens ran the blood panel. It's all documented." The unraveling Sienna's face twisted with rage. The careful mask completely shattered. Fine. You want the truth?" Her voice climbed, getting shrill. "I never wanted that child. She was a mistake. Marcus wouldn't leave his wife for me, so I got stuck." She was pacing now, completely unraveling. "Stuck with Derek's pathetic salary, stuck with his mediocre life, stuck with you." She jabbed a finger at me. "Taking up space, sucking up money. Every month watching you live comfortably in your paid-off house while we drowned in debt. 85,000 in credit cards, 95,000 mortgage. The IRS breathing down our necks. Foreclosure in 6 months. Sienna, stop." Derek tried to interrupt. "No." She whirled on him. "You're weak, Derek. You've always been weak. I had to plan everything, do everything, because you couldn't provide, couldn't protect our future. So I did." Her eyes were wild now, years of resentment pouring out. "Your father was 71 years old. He'd lived a full life. I was just helping nature along. The tea was working. Another week and he'd have just slipped away. Natural causes. Easy. Clean. 1.5 million to save our lives." She laughed. Actually laughed. "Do you know how perfect it was? The confusion, the memory loss, everyone believed it. Even his doctor. All I had to do was wait." "Except I questioned it," Maya said quietly. Sienna's eyes snapped to her daughter. "You." Pure venom in that word. "You ruined everything. I told you to stay silent. I gave you one job. For 6 years. One simple job. But you couldn't even do that, could you?" She took a step toward Maya. "Just like your father, Marcus. Completely useless. All you had to do was keep your mouth shut. But no, you had to." She lunged. I moved on pure instinct, caught her wrist mid-reach. 71 years old, but 25 years in the army doesn't forget how to neutralize a threat. "Touch that girl," I said quietly, "and it will be the last thing you do." The guest room door opened. Detective Walsh and Daniel Harper stepped into the living room. They'd heard everything. "Mrs. Gallagher," Detective Walsh said, pulling out handcuffs. "You're under arrest for attempted murder, elder abuse, and child endangerment. You have the right to remain silent." Sienna thrashed in my grip, Let go. She's lying. He's senile. This is a setup. We have the recording, Detective Walsh said calmly, clicking the cuffs into place. We have the medical evidence. We have your written progress notes. And we have your confession that we all just heard. She read Sienna her rights while Daniel stood beside me, steady and professional. As they led her out, Sienna screamed about lawyers, about fighting this, about how I'd manipulated Maya. Maya stood beside me, not crying, not celebrating, just quiet, the way she'd been for 6 years. But this time, it was her choice. Detective Walsh turned to Derek. Mr. Gallagher, you need to come down to the station for questioning. Derek nodded, looked at me one more time. Dad, I'm sorry. I know that's not enough, but I'm sorry. You should be, I said, no sympathy in my voice. He turned to Maya. Honey, I love you, even though I failed you completely. Maya looked at him for a long moment. I know, Dad, but knowing you love me and actually protecting me are different things. Derek's face crumpled, but he walked out with the detective without another word. After the police car pulled away, Maya and I stood in my living room. The house felt different now, lighter. Is it really over? She asked. The legal part's just starting, I said honestly. But the dangerous part? Yeah, kid, that's over. Justice. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The jury deliberated 2 days. Sienna's defense tried everything. I was senile. Maya was coached. The evidence was planted. But they couldn't explain the progress notes in Sienna's handwriting. Couldn't explain the drugs in my blood matching the tea packets. Couldn't explain her voice on that recording, cold and calculating. The verdict came back unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Sienna's sentence, 25 years in state prison. No parole eligibility for 20 years. Permanent loss of parental rights. Restraining order. No contact with Maya until age 30. Federal prosecutors also filed charges for life insurance fraud. Buying a policy on me, then trying to kill me, that crossed state lines. Federal crime. Derek's sentence. The judge was harsh. Mr. Gallagher, you weren't actively poisoning your father, but you knew. For months, you knew. You knew your daughter was being psychologically tortured, and you did nothing. That makes you an accessory. 18 months in county prison, 3 years probation after release, mandatory psychological counseling, supervised visitation with Maya only, 2 hours per month, therapist present, permanent loss of primary custody. Derek collapsed when he heard 18 months. His lawyer had promised probation only. The visit. 3 months after the arrest, before the trial concluded, I made the drive to county jail. Derek had requested a visit. I sat in the visiting room, plexiglass divider between us, phone receivers on the wall, like something from a movie, except this was my son. He looked 10 years older, orange jumpsuit, hollow eyes, the kind of broken you can't fake. How is she? First words out of his mouth. Talking nonstop, thriving. Therapist says she's remarkably resilient. His eyes filled. Good. That's good. We sat in silence, the hum of fluorescent lights, other inmates and their visitors speaking in hushed tones around us. Dad, I know, I cut him off. You were weak. You let fear control you. You chose comfort over courage. And Maya paid the price for 6 years. He nodded, tears on his face. I'll live with that forever. You should. No sympathy in my voice. But here's what you need to understand, Derek. Being weak doesn't make you a victim. It makes you complicit. You had choices every single day. You chose wrong. Can you tell her I love her? I was silent for a long moment. I'll tell her. Whether she forgives you, that's her choice. Don't expect it. You don't deserve it. A guard announced visiting hours were ending. Derek stood, put his hand on the plexiglass. Dad, thank you for protecting her when I couldn't. I didn't put my hand up to meet his. I left without looking back. Aftermath: Daniel Harper filed a civil lawsuit for wrongful endangerment and intentional infliction of emotional distress. We won $1.2 million in punitive damages. Sienna's assets seized. Derek's assets seized. Their house foreclosed. Both bankruptcy. The money went into a trust fund for Maya. She couldn't touch it until 25, but it would pay for college, therapy, whatever she needed. The custody hearing was brief. Sienna's parents tried to petition. Vincent's too old at 71, they argued. Judge Morrison asked Maya directly, "Who do you want to live with?" Maya didn't hesitate. "My grandpa. He's the only one who ever protected me." Full legal guardianship to me. 6 months later, Maya's middle school held career day. I sat in the back, surrounded by other parents and grandparents. Maya stood at the front, hands clasped, nervous but determined. "I want to be a child psychologist," she said, her voice clear, confident. "Because I know what it's like when adults don't listen, when people think you can't understand just because you're quiet." She found my eyes in the crowd. For 6 years, I couldn't speak. Not because I didn't have words, but because I was too scared. My grandfather taught me something important. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting even when you're afraid. Her voice got stronger. "He saved me by listening. I saved him by speaking. That's what family does. They show up for each other when it matters most." The class erupted in applause. Afterward, walking to my truck, Maya said, "Did I do okay?" "You did great, kid." She was quiet for a moment. "Do you think Dad heard about it?" Derek had written 3 letters from prison. She'd read one, hadn't responded. "Maybe," I said. "Does it matter?" She thought about it. "I don't know. I'm still angry. But I also remember when he used to read to me before bed. Sometimes I miss that version of him." "That's okay," I said. "You can miss who someone was and still hold them accountable for who they became." She nodded, processing. "Grandpa, are we going to be okay?" I opened the truck door. "Kid, we already are okay. Everything else is bonus." That evening, we ate dinner together. Spaghetti, her favorite. Normal conversation about school, friends, ordinary things. After, Maya did homework at the kitchen table. I cleaned dishes, listening to her hum while she worked, a sound I'd been denied for 6 years. Later she said, "Grandpa, thank you for believing me when I finally spoke. Maya, you saved both our lives. We saved each other," she said simply. Smart kid. She was right. At 71, I'd found my purpose again. Not as a soldier, not as a disappointed father, as the grandfather of a girl who taught me that family isn't about blood or perfection. It's about showing up, being brave, doing what's right even when it's hard. Some families are born. Ours was forged in battle, and nothing will ever break that. If you or someone you know is experiencing elder abuse, National Center on Elder Abuse, 1-800-6M7-1116. If you know a child who needs help, Child Help National Child Abuse, hotline 1-800-422-4453. I'm sharing this story because someone out there might be going through something similar. An elderly parent getting forgetful. A child who's just shy. Don't ignore it. Don't make excuses. Do what Maya did. Gather evidence. Do what I did. Act before it's too late. Listen to the quiet people in your life. Sometimes silence isn't peaceful. It's survival. Be the person who listens. Just like Maya hoped I would be. Thank God I was.